Sometimes, the smallest choices can completely change a life. That reality still echoes in my mind. Because if I hadn't made one seemingly ordinary decision on a random Tuesday, I might still be stuck in a marriage built on lies. My name is Walter, and what I'm about to tell you is how forgetting something as simple as a flash drive led me to uncover the darkest truth about the person I trusted most. But before that turning point, let me take you back to the very beginning, when I first met Jasmine. Jasmine had just come out of what she later called a toxic and damaging relationship. Her ex, Adrian, wasn't just another failed partner. He was controlling, manipulative, and emotionally abusive. He cut her off from friends, belittled her ambitions, and made her doubt every decision she made. After nearly 3 years with him, she finally walked away, emotionally drained, raw, and deeply wary of men's intentions. I first saw Jasmine sitting alone at a small downtown cafe, her laptop open, but her gaze distant. I was grabbing a quick coffee before heading back to work. Something about her caught my attention. She looked sharp yet guarded, like someone who had built invisible walls to protect herself. I introduced myself casually, making small talk about the line and the weather. She looked up, gave a polite smile, and went back to her screen. "Do you come here often?" I asked, trying not to sound like a cliché. "Sometimes," she replied without looking at me again. "I like the coffee here." That was all. No spark, no invitation to continue. Most people would have let it go. But something about Jasmine's presence intrigued me. Not pity, but curiosity. She seemed like someone with a story worth knowing. Someone who had been through storms and survived. In the weeks that followed, I found myself returning to that cafe, not to follow her, but because I genuinely liked the place, and yes, because I hoped to see her again. Eventually I did. Each time I tried to strike up light conversation. She was polite but distant, never rude yet always reserved. When I finally asked for her number, she shook her head firmly. "I said not dating right now," she said. "I need to focus on myself." I nodded, respecting her boundaries. "Fair enough," I said. "But maybe we could still grab coffee as friends. No pressure." She hesitated, then sighed. "I really don't want complications in my life right now." I supped him, still healing. Her honesty struck me. Most people would have offered an excuse, but Jasmine was direct. She was protecting herself. Still, something in me didn't want to let the moment end there. Not to push her, but to show her there were still good men out there. Men who didn't see relationships as cages or control games. So I shifted my approach. I didn't chase. I didn't pressure. I simply showed up with consistency and respect. If I saw her at the cafe, I asked about her work, just enough to show I cared. She told me she was rebuilding her graphic design business, dealing with tough clients, and trying to regain confidence after years of being told she wasn't good enough. I listened. That was it. No unsolicited advice, no attempts to solve her problems, just space and respect. Slowly, I saw small cracks appear in her walls. A quick laugh at a joke. A question about my work. A nod when I told her I admired her perseverance. Then one day, after weeks of this quiet dance, she surprised me. She slid a napkin across the table with her phone number on it. "Don't make me regret this," she said softly. Half serious, half playful. I won set, I promised, and meant it. From then on, our conversations deepened. Jasmine began sharing pieces of her past, her childhood, her business dreams, her fears about trusting someone again. Piece by piece, the walls she'd built around her heart began to fall, and for the first time, she allowed someone, me, into that fragile place. It didn't happen overnight. It took months of patience and proving through actions that I wasn't Adrian, that I wasn't there to control her or break her down. Gradually, Jasmine began to trust me. She started to believe I cared about her happiness for its own sake, not for what she could give me. I remember one evening at the same cafe. She looked at me with a seriousness I hadn't seen before. "You stir different, Walter," she said. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for you to show me some hidden agenda. But you never do. Why?" "Because I don't want to change you," I replied. "I just want to know you." That night, I walked her to her car, and for the first time, she didn't pull back when I touched her hand. It was a small gesture, but monumental. Looking back, I realized that was the moment I believed we had a real chance. What I didn't know was that the trust I'd worked so hard to earn would one day become the very thing that shattered me. The first few months after Jasmine gave me her number were careful. Tentative steps forward, mostly coffee, short conversations, little check-ins to see if her trust in me was justified. I never rushed her, never asked for more than she was ready to give. But one evening, about 4 months after we met, Jasmine leaned across the table and said quietly, "Walter, I think I set ready. Would you like to go on a real date with me?" I had to stop myself from grinning. "You mean like dinner? Maybe a movie?" She nodded, eyes playful but uncertain. "Yes, no pressure. Just, let's see where this goes." That night felt like winning the lottery. I remember walking her to her car afterward, my chest tight with a mix of nerves and exhilaration. For months, I'd hoped for this chance. Now it was finally happening, and it felt surreal. Her smile told me she was beginning to believe in me, in us. From that first official date onward, everything between us blossomed. Jasmine began to relax. Her laughter came more easily. She let me see more of the vibrant, creative woman she'd kept hidden. I loved watching her work on her design projects, sketching late into the night with a pencil behind her ear, muttering about colors and fonts. Sometimes I'd sit quietly across the room with my laptop, just keeping her company. "You don't have to sit there, you know," she'd say. "I know," I set reply. "But I like being here. It feels like home." She'd roll her eyes, but I'd see the corners of her lips curve despite herself. As the months passed, Jasmine began saying things that made my heart soar. "I feel safe with you, Walter. I never thought I'd be able to say that about a man again." Or, "You make me feel like my dreams matter." For someone who once doubted her worth, these words were monumental. When I finally introduced Jasmine to my parents, they welcomed her warmly. My mother hugged her with tears in her eyes and whispered to me later, "She's been through something, hasn't she? Take care of her, son." My father shook her hand firmly, a quiet nod signaling approval. Meeting her parents was similar. They were protective but soon warmed to me. Mr. Monroe pulled me aside. "One afternoon, Jasmine has had enough heartbreak for a lifetime. If you ever hurt her, you'll answer to me." I assured him with all sincerity I had no intention of letting her down. By the time we'd been dating a year, it felt natural to take the next step. I proposed in the same cafe where we first met, sliding a simple ring across the table. Her hands trembled as she stared at it, and for a moment I worried she might say no. But then her eyes filled with tears, and she whispered, "Yes, Walter, yes." Our wedding was a small, intimate ceremony with close family and friends. No extravagant decorations, just vows spoken with sincerity, and the quiet joy of two people who believed they'd found their forever. I'll never forget Jasmine, in her simple white dress, her smile brighter than the sun, or our families standing together, united in their blessing. Married life with Jasmine felt like everything I'd hoped for. We built routines that became the foundation of our happiness. I'd leave work as a marketing analyst by 6 most evenings, determined not to let my career overshadow the life we were building. Jasmine would often be waiting in the kitchen, apron tied around her waist, hair pulled back, humming softly while chopping vegetables. Might'd kiss her cheek and ask, "What's Seps for dinner tonight?" "Whatever my sous chef feels like helping me make," she'd tease. We cooked, sometimes burning things, sometimes laughing so hard we forgot to stir the pot. Afterward, We'd curl up on the sofa with plates of food, watching movies or talking about our days. These quiet evenings were what I lived for. They might have seemed ordinary to anyone else, but to me, they were extraordinary. Proof I'd built a life of love and partnership with a woman who once thought love was dangerous. We made plans too. Late-night conversations about starting a family in a few years filled our home with dreams. Jasmine would sometimes hold my hand and whisper, "Can you imagine a little one running around here? I think you set make a great father." I would smile and reply, "And you'd be an incredible mom." Those late-night talks painted a picture of the future I believed we were both building. 3 years into our marriage, I felt more secure than ever. To me, Jasmine wasn't just my wife. She was my partner, my confidant, my constant. I shared everything with her: work victories, frustrations, random thoughts, even my biggest dreams. I was certain our bond, built on trust, patience, and respect, would last a lifetime. Looking back now, I realize the cracks were there long before I noticed them. Subtle changes, her distracted looks, her sudden long hours at the gym she claimed were for health, and moments when she seemed emotionally distant. At the time, I convinced myself it was nothing. She was just focused, just independent, as she had always been. I had no idea that beneath our calm life, something destructive was waiting. And it took one forgotten flash drive to reveal it. That Tuesday began like any other. I arrived at the office early, ready for one of the most important presentations of my career. It was a meeting that could influence the entire direction of our department. I had spent weeks perfecting slides, rehearsing talking points, and triple-checking financials. By 1 p.m., I was at my desk, reviewing everything one final time before heading to the conference room. That's when I noticed the drive wasn't in my bag. My stomach dropped. I searched every pocket, drawer, and even my jacket, but it was gone. Then I remembered. I had left it plugged into the home computer the night before. "Damn it, Walter," I muttered. There was still time. If I left immediately, I could grab it and return before the meeting. About 40 minutes. Maybe less, if traffic was clear. I didn't bother calling Jasmine. I wasn't planning to stay long, just in and out. As I turned onto our street, I noticed a sleek black SUV parked in front of our house. I didn't recognize it. My first thought was simple. Maybe Jasmine had a client over to discuss design work. But a knot of unease formed. Instead of pulling into the driveway, I parked a few houses down. Something told me to be cautious. I walked up with my keys in hand, a heaviness in my chest I couldn't explain. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. What I saw is burned into my memory. Jasmine, my wife of 3 years, wrapped in a passionate embrace with a man I didn't know. Clothes were scattered across the floor. For a moment, my mind refused to process it. My body froze, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. Jasmine. The word barely left my mouth. She snapped her eyes open in shock. The man jumped up, fumbling for his shirt. Jasmine pulled a blanket around herself, stammering, "Walter, this isn't set what it looks like. Please let me explain." But what explanation could change what I had seen? I felt numb, detached, like I was watching someone else's life. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I didn't even cry. I just stood there, crushed by the weight of betrayal. The stranger, Adrian, I would later learn, mumbled something and avoided my eyes. Jasmine panicked, reaching toward me. "It was a mistake. Please. It just happened." But her words didn't reach me. My mind was fixed on one thing, the flash drive. I walked past them, straight into my office. There it was, plugged neatly into the computer, as if nothing had happened. I pulled it free, slid it into my pocket, and headed for the door. "Walter, please," Jasmine begged, following me. "Don't set walk out. We can talk. This doesn't set have to end us." I didn't reply. I opened the front door, stepped out, and closed it behind me. The drive back to the office felt like a blur. The world outside my windshield seemed muted, unreal. When I arrived, I forced on a mask of composure. Colleagues greeted me in the hallway, and I barely acknowledged them. In the conference room, I inserted the flash drive and delivered the presentation. Outwardly, I spoke with confidence. Inside, I was falling apart. Every slide reminded me of Jasmine's betrayal. Every blink brought back the image of her with Adrian. My boss, Mr. Callahan, sat at the end of the table, watching me. His expression was concerned, but he said nothing until the meeting ended. When everyone left, I lingered, pretending to work, unable to face going home. Hours passed until the office grew quiet. Then Mr. Callahan walked over. "Walter," he said gently, "come with me." Startled, I tried to protest, but he cut me off. "You stir not fooling anyone. Let's go." I shut down my computer and followed him. We drove to a quiet bar nearby. We found a booth, ordered drinks, and sat in silence before he finally asked, "What happened today?" The words caught in my throat, but then everything came pouring out. The flash drive, the SUV, walking in on Jasmine and the stranger, her desperate pleas, my stunned silence. Mr. Callahan didn't interrupt. He just listened, his expression somber. When I finished, drained and hollow, he said quietly, "I been there." I blinked. "You have?" He nodded. "I wasn't married, but I was planning to propose. Thought she was the one. Then I found out she been with someone else the entire time. Broke me in ways I didn't think I recover from." I leaned back, absorbing his words. "So what did you do?" He sighed. "I learned the hardest truth. We can control what others do. We can only control how we respond. Walter, you stir at a crossroads. You can let this betrayal define you, or you can decide what comes next. The choice is yours." I stared at him, my chest tight. "But how? I don't even know what I feel." "I loved her. I trusted her." He placed his hand on the table. "Listen to me. You stir not powerless here. Don't let her mistake be the anchor that drags you down. Decide who you want to be on the other side of this. That's where your strength lies." His words settled into me like a lifeline. For the first time that day, I felt a flicker of clarity. We talked for another hour about life, betrayal, and the painful lessons they bring. When we finally left, I felt both heavier and lighter, burdened by truth, but steadied by the realization that I still had a choice. That night, I drove home. The house stood dark and quiet, but I knew Jasmine would be waiting with explanations and pleas. My hand lingered on the doorknob as Mr. Callahan's words echoed in my mind. "The choice is yours." I stepped inside. The lights were on. Jasmine sat on the edge of the couch, dressed, her hands nervously twisting in her lap. She looked up as I entered, pale but determined, as if she had rehearsed her speech. "Walter," she began, her voice shaking. "Please sit down. I need to explain." I stood near the doorway, still wearing my coat. She swallowed hard before continuing. "The man you saw, his name is Adrian. He's a personal trainer at my gym. I never planned for any of this. At first, it was just friendship. He helped me with my workouts, and I let the boundaries blur. Today was the first time it ever became physical. I swear it was a mistake, a terrible one." I listened without emotion. Her words barely registered. A mistake. That word echoed in my mind like broken glass. She kept speaking, her voice urgent. "It didn't mean anything, Walter. I love you. I don't want to lose us. Please believe me. I still do anything to regain your trust." But I had nothing to say. My throat felt locked, my body unmoving. I turned from her pleading gaze and walked silently to the guest room. That night, I closed the door and lay in the darkness, her betrayal replaying in my head over and over. The next morning, I left for work earlier than usual. She tried to stop me in the hallway. "Walter, Can we talk? Please don't shut me out. I brushed past her without responding. My silence became my decision. For the next several days, I kept to the same pattern. I avoided her at meals, slept in the guest room, and threw myself into work. Every time she tried to start a conversation, I walked away. At the office, the only person I confided in was Mr. Callahan. One afternoon, I stood in his doorway, struggling for words. He looked up and asked, "You've already made your decision, haven't you?" I nodded slightly. "I can forgive her. Not after what I saw." "Then protect yourself," he said. "Don, prolong it. End it cleanly." That night, I searched for a divorce attorney online and booked a consultation. I didn't tell Jasmine. There was nothing left to discuss. A week later, I sat across from the attorney reviewing paperwork. With no children and few shared assets, the process was straightforward. Still, it felt surreal to sign documents that would end a marriage I once thought unbreakable. When Jasmine found out, she didn't fight. Standing in the kitchen with the papers in her hands, her face pale, she whispered, "So that's it? You you're just ending it?" I met her eyes. "You ended it the moment you let him touch you." Tears filled her eyes, but she didn't argue or beg. Perhaps she knew there was nothing left to save. The following weeks passed in a blur of meetings, signatures, and court dates. My parents, Mr. and Mrs. Whitaker, gave me steady support. My mother reminded me daily that I deserved better. My father's quiet nods reassured me when I faltered. I heard little from Jasmine's parents, though mutual acquaintances said they were devastated. Jasmine herself remained silent during the proceedings. She signed where needed, avoided my eyes, and carried the weight of quiet defeat. I was struck by how quickly something we had built with such care collapsed into paperwork. The process was quick, but the pain wasn't. I couldn't close my eyes without seeing her with Adrian. The image haunted me, at work, at home, in every quiet moment. No legal signature or kind word could erase it. Deep down, I knew nothing ever would. One evening, after signing another round of documents, I sat in the empty guest room. The divorce wasn't finalized yet, but the marriage was gone. I thought about our vows, about the trust I once believed was unshakable, and wondered how I missed the signs. It became clear, betrayal doesn't just end a marriage, it rewrites the story of your life. In the weeks that followed, I replayed the chain of events, all of it traced back to a single mistake, the flash drive I left behind. If I hadn't forgotten it, maybe I would still be living unaware. Maybe I'd still be sharing a home with Jasmine, blind to what was happening. That day was both a curse and a strange blessing. It shattered me, but it also freed me. I remembered Mr. Callahan's words from that night at the bar. When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Back then, it felt like advice. Now I understood it as a compass. Jasmine had shown me exactly who she was. No apology, no promise, no plea could erase that truth. Even after the papers were filed, she tried. One night, I found her waiting on the porch, eyes swollen. "Walter," she whispered, "can we at least talk? I still spend my life proving it was a mistake. Please don't shut the door forever." I looked at her for a long time, torn between memory and truth. Then I said quietly, "You already showed me who you are, and I believe you." I closed the door, not out of cruelty, but out of clarity. In the months that followed, I leaned on my parents. My mother's small check-ins and my father's quiet acts of support reminded me that loyalty still exists. I didn't see much of Jasmine's parents, and part of me pitied them. They had believed in her as much as I had, but betrayal ripples outward, touching everyone. Through it all, Mr. Callahan became more than a boss. He was a mentor and friend who understood the silent ache of betrayal. We often met at the same quiet bar, talking not just about Jasmine, but about resilience and dignity. One evening he said, "Walter, You think you're broken, but I've seen strength in you. Grace isn't the absence of pain, it's how you carry it. His words stayed with me. Slowly I began to rebuild. The pain didn't vanish. It never does. But I learned to carry it differently. I stopped asking why, and started asking what now. I focused on work, friendships, and rediscovering who I was without her. I learned that loyalty is proven through consistent actions, that trust must be earned and safeguarded, and that choosing a partner means aligning values, not just emotions. Today I'm not bitter. I still believe in love, but I'm more cautious about where I place my heart. I still believe in commitment, but I know it requires more than passion. It requires vigilance. Most importantly, I believe in myself again. That forgotten flash drive, as painful as it was, forced the truth into the open. It destroyed me, but it also saved me. And yet, even with clarity and healing, I sometimes wonder, are the shadows of betrayal truly behind me, or are they waiting somewhere ahead to test me again?